the biggest question that I have with them is, because for last month I would say, well, this is the last team I would expect to sell. I mean, they just went to the World Series. They owe their fans. They're selling out every game. They should be trying to go for it, especially in this crappy American League. But the more I think about it, and the more I talk to people around the Blue Jays, it's like, they don't have it. It's not happening. Sorry. Like, this team is not going anywhere anytime soon. And with a number of very intriguing expiring contracts, do they actually have the cachet to pull off a sell, a soft sell, or we're not, getting rid of guys with long-term deals.
Reboot.
A reboot. They've done it before in the last 5 years. Remember, they have kind of gone up and down in dramatic fashion. I'm leaning towards yes. I think that they could say, look, I don't think Ross Atkins is worried about saving his job. We just talked about how great their offseason was this past year with Cease and Okamoto and Rogers, whatever. So I think that as painful as it's going to be to trade Kevin Gausman, who is one of the best free agent signings of the decade and has meant so much to Toronto and et cetera, as much as it might pain them to trade a Dalton Varsho, who's also an expiring contract, a George Springer, think about what he's meant to them. And I know that those guys don't have as much value because of the seasons that they're having as maybe a Kevin Gausman does. I think that those are hard conversations that they're probably leaning towards making, because I just this does not seem like a team that has even if they could stay within a few games of a playoff spot, it just doesn't seem like a team that has a run in them. And so I think that they have the room to make that tough decision.
Yesterday, I went on Jays Talk Plus with our friend Blake Murphy, and he was asking me about the Jays deadline. And over the course of our conversation, I gradually realized that, oh my God, this team is not good. They need to trade everybody. Right. I was like, wait a second. They have to trade these people. And it will be odd to explain to your casual ball watching buddies that the team that was inches from winning the World Series and has a very similar roster with a bunch of good offseason additions is selling at the deadline. But I think it is definitely what they have to do. I mentioned Bieber before. I think Jeff Hoffman could move. Varsho is like one of the few everyday players. Like, he could be a fun fit for the White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
I am just, the Jays are in a very odd spot. I am, also fascinated by them.
Their last thing I'll say on them, and then you can give me a team. I mean, it's closer to the Mets than anything. Yeah. I mean, it's also a disaster. You spent all this money, you had all these high expectations, but with the Mets, we're like, well, yeah, they suck. Like, trade everybody. Duh. This is not a hard conversation. And it took me a few weeks to get there with Toronto, but I think I am there now.
I will go with the Brewers. Do it, man. Be dumb. I am so affected and my brain is so warped by how the Brewers by how the Brewers showed in October last year against the Dodgers. The team that they had assembled, the team that won the most games in the sport, just got steamrolled by the Dodgers in that NLCS. And I am curious to see if that experience changes the way that Matt Arnold, this Pobo, goes about his business at this deadline. Does he say, you know what, I can roll out of bed and build a 97-win ball club, but do I need to change course and be more aggressive and be more stupid and get more MFers, more game changers in order to win a playoff series, in order to slay the dragon that is the Dodgers? Because if the Brewers want to win a World Series, which is the ultimate goal, they're probably going to need to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. And in order to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers, you need these big players. We saw it with the Blue Jays in the World Series, how close they almost came, right? Bichette and Guerrero were like these aircraft carriers. Do the Brewers have those players? Are those players available? Are they willing to go get them? That is why I think the Brewers and Skubal, like, will they trade for Skubal? No. Should they? I think so. How aggressive and you can loop Tampa into this too, how aggressive will these teams be with the opportunity in front of them?
Yeah, I was going to say Tampa, you can lump Cleveland in because those three organizations, we just have very similar conversations about all the time. Now, Cleveland is not having nearly as good of a season as Milwaukee and Tampa Bay. So I think that from that perspective, it's different, but it's still the same idea of you have plenty of stuff to trade and clear needs, and you were expecting to be back in the postseason. And in Cleveland's case, the urgency should be even higher because you clearly actually have some competition as opposed to Milwaukee and Tampa, which might cruise to a postseason spot. Cleveland might actually need to do something.
Okay. I disagree with that because I think Tampa is actually the team here with the most incentive to be hyper aggressive. And I think that they will be. The AL stinks. They're going to be in a bye. Cleveland might not be in a bye. Like Tampa will be in a bye. And then they'll have a pretty weak American League field to have to go through. This is as good of an opportunity as this organization has had to reach a World Series since they reached the World Series. And if you don't take advantage of that, I think it's a big swing and a miss. So I'll just take both those teams. I'll take the Brewers and the Rays together. Your turn.
Great. So then I will take your lead there, and I will also take two teams, and I'll do the Rockies and Angels together. Because with both of these franchises, two of the on the short list of, okay, these teams suck, they should obviously sell players. However, that has been true in the past, and they have not done so because they have been acting as if they are living in an alternate universe where actually they're close to contending and they can't possibly trade away players on their major league team because they're just a couple pieces away from getting back into it. That is no longer the case. Now they have new leadership in the front office that is seeing things clearly and are recognizing we are bad now and holding on to these players that have even 2 or 3 years of team control. When you consider the larger scope of this organizational direction and trajectory and what we need, we have to consider all options. John Mozeliak has come out very publicly already, seemingly every other day for the last 2 weeks, saying, yes, we have to consider all of these things, which is why I do think they are going to trade at least one of these players with multiple years of team control, whether that's Detmers, whether that's Soriano, whether that's Joe Adell or Zach Neto. I have to think that teams now are going to know we can call the Angels and actually have a real conversation with them in a way that we couldn't in the past. And I think that that's also true with the Rockies. I think the Rockies are a little bit different because they don't have as many pieces of the same trade value level as the Detmers and Soriano types or even a Neto. But I think they're also going to consider a lot of things that they didn't in the past. We already saw them part with a reliever with real upside in Seth Halverson. A lot of risk as well with injuries and strike throwing, but that was the first trade where, with the Dodgers, a team they haven't made a trade with since 2014, they go get a couple of interesting prospects there. I have to think they're going to keep looking at their other relievers, whether it's Juan Mejia or Victor Vodnik or Jaden Hill, that other teams are going to call about and be like, yes, we of course should consider trading these guys for real prospects because why wouldn't we? It's just the sensible thing to do. So the degree to which both of these teams are willing to part with real pieces is, I think, one of the biggest questions of this whole deadline, and I do think it is going to happen, especially in Anaheim.
The John Mozeliak dynamic is so funny right now because it feels like every 3 days we're getting a quote from him where he's like, we stink and we're going to have to trade some people. And it's as if the Angels reporters can't believe that the person in charge is saying that and being that honest and realistic. And so they then need to just continue to like check in. Hey, John, just following up. Really? Because we're not used to hearing that line of messaging.
He's like,
it cracks me
we suck.
He's like, no, dude, look at this. You're watching this team. The team I'll go with next is the New York Mets. They'll trade all of the expiring contracts that they can. That's a no-brainer. This team is underwhelmed to an embarrassing degree. That is Holmes. That is Freddie Peralta. That is Brooks Raley. That might be Tyrone Taylor, Luis Robert Jr. So then the question becomes, what else? Do they go further than that? And if so, what does that look like? Is that Francisco Alvarez? Do they cut bait on Beatty or Mark Vientos? Do they try and get out from the Bo Bichette deal? Do they trade Francisco Lindor? I think no. If we're talking like who is safe, like who would I bet a limb will be on the 2027 Mets? Ewing, Soto, Benj, McClain.
Yeah, that's probably the
Thanks
end of the
for
list.
showing up. Christian Scott, probably. You know,
Christian Scott.
like
yes.
that's the list. What is so fascinating about the Mets to me is that how David Stearns, their Pobo, moves this deadline, the moves that he makes, the players he gets back, the players he trades away, this is his biggest opportunity. The beginning of the process of him saving face, rehabilitating his reputation as a baseball executive. We thought that this guy knew what he was doing. Maybe he still does. Certainly hasn't looked like that over the last 2 years. The proof is in the pudding and in the run differential and in the standings. The Mets have been an embarrassment. If David Stearns is going to fix this thing, that starts over the next 10 days. And I am fascinated to see him operate from this position as a seller, as a true seller.
Yeah.
And so there is actually probably no single character behind Scooble that I'm more compelled by than David Stearns at this deadline.
I agree with you that Stearns as a character, just his place and reputation, I'm with you on all that. I don't really know what trades he could make. I mean, I guess, you trade Freddie Peralta for like a top 50 prospect. Mets fans temporarily will be like, hell yeah, Stearns cooked. And then they'll be like, man, we suck. Hopefully we're better next year. Like, I don't know how much he can really fix it, but I do agree with your larger point. Yeah.
Types of players are they trying to acquire?
Sure. Yes.
How high up the minor league ladder are they? Are they young players at the big league level? We're going to learn a lot about what David Stearns believes is the path from here to there, from where the Mets have found themselves to where the Mets want to be. And so for that reason, like we're just going to learn so much about the Mets that I'm hooked.
Sure.